Monster Synthesis Master. Chapter 211, Game Craze. He arrived at midnight sharp. The wind-chasing soft gaming pod suddenly turned black and lost all connection. A sentence floated in the center of the dark game cabin: the closed beta is over, please look forward to the open beta. Wind-chasing wolf pulled the button on his right hand, and the game cabin's pressure released a sound similar to a leather ball being pierced and deflated. The cabin door opened, and the party members quickly gathered around. "Brother Feng, how is it?" Zui Feng had a relaxed expression as he nodded. "Everything's settled, and the position is retained. When the open beta is online, I'll be reinstated and continue to be my small leader." The members of the Miracle Guild's main team had bright smiles on their faces. Their hanging hearts were finally at ease. "So, when the game is open for beta testing, we can follow Brother Feng to the streets to collect protection fees." Wind strode to the dining area, poured a cup of water and gulped it down. After drinking it, he sat down on the sofa, feeling relaxed. "Collecting protection fees is secondary, the main thing is that I'm in charge of the entire block. Do you know how long a block is? A full kilometer. Do you know how many businesses there are on this 1 kilometer road and how many missions will be generated?" He could avoid the trouble of running around to find quests at the start. "In addition to the previously arranged mission route, the missions that I manage in the streets, and the missions that I usually receive in Shandu, it is enough for the players to rise to level 10. In addition, I saw on the forum before the end that a player named Luo Mu cleared the gunfight in the hotel instance dungeon and even found a legendary NPC in the instance dungeon. I'll record all this information." Just as Wind was reporting to the team, the phone on the table suddenly rang. "Hello, this is the Miracle Guild. Who are you looking for? Have you forgotten who I am?" The voice on the other end of the phone laughed, and it sounded a little relaxed. Zui Feng's eyes suddenly opened wide as he exclaimed, "You're a bandit. At least you still have some conscience and can recognize my voice. Do you need something?" Wind-chasing wolf wasn't surprised that Thief Liang could get his phone number. As the CEO of a listed company with a net worth of billions, it was a piece of cake for him to find the contact information of the president of a game hall of fame or one of the top 10 guilds. "Since we're already in that kind of relationship, is it okay for me to invest and sponsor your guild?" Zui Feng frowned. These words sounded strange. The teammates around him stepped back one by one, looking at their guild leader with complicated eyes. Some of them even took a few steps back in disgust. Zui Feng met everyone's eyes and his heart suddenly thumped. "No, it's not what you think, Ying Luo." The other members of the team were also very understanding. They patted Wind's shoulder, pursed their lips and showed an understanding expression. "Brother Feng, you don't have to say anything else, we all understand. No wonder you never had a girlfriend, so you had a boyfriend. Ying Luo is fine, even so, you're still our good brother Feng." Zui Feng wanted to explain, but his subordinates seemed to understand and stopped him, not giving him a chance to explain. On the other end of the phone, the thief Liang Ren was still saying things like, "We're a family after joining the stock and we should be more intimate in the future." As soon as the closed beta ended, many well-known players who participated in the closed beta received interviews from the media. As Planet Aqua Blue's first holographic virtual reality game, Fate had been the focus of everyone's attention ever since it was developed. After 3 years of intense research and development, the closed beta testing finally began this summer. Even though the closed beta testing only lasted for 5 days, everyone on Planet Aqua had their eyes on the game. Although closed beta players had signed a confidentiality agreement with the game company, the confidentiality agreement was only limited to the game content and did not include the players' feelings towards the game content. The 1,000 players invited for the closed beta testing could be said to be the elites of the gaming industry. They had played many games and were fully qualified to judge the quality of a game. At this moment, in the Divine Hall Guild, "I'm telling you, this game is definitely an epic-making masterpiece. In just 5 days, I've been completely immersed in the realistic environment created by the game. If I were to play other games now, it would definitely be like chewing wax. The vice president of the Temple of God spoke with fervor and assurance. Then can you tell me the details? The reporter on the other end of the line asked. The vice president of the Temple of God leaned forward and immediately said, for example, the simplest NPC interaction has already surpassed all the games on the market. You can't treat the NPCs in the game as robots at all. Instead, you think that they are made of flesh and blood, and everyone has their own emotions and stories. Last but not least, Vice Guild Leader Yan, what do you think of the Temple of God's old rival, the Miracle Guild? I heard that they have obtained a game qualification and have entered the closed beta. Yan Cheng snorted coldly and a strange smile appeared on his face. The Miracle Guild is also our old enemy. There have been conflicts and fights between the two sides in many games before, but this time in Destiny, such a thing will not happen again, because our temple will definitely win the final victory. From Vice President Yan's tone, it seems like he had a fortuitous encounter during the closed beta. I'm sorry, I can't disclose this information according to the confidentiality agreement. However, everything will be revealed in the closed beta test in 1.5 months. You'll know that I'm not lying. Interviews like this were going on everywhere. Even Wind Chaser accepted a phone interview with the media that had cooperated with Miracle Guild and asked for his opinion on Fate, an epic-making game. It didn't matter if it was a well-known guild, an old lady in the game, or a famous player in the game. Anyone who had played the closed beta version would praise Fate greatly in interviews, describing it as the greatest game in the history of Planet Aqua Blue. Most people described the world in the game as a second world. Although it was impossible to ask about the specific details, after the consistent high ratings from the Hall of the Exalted players who led the game, the video hosts, and the live streamers, the ordinary people's expectations for the game became even stronger. These closed beta players were also feeling bitter. They were still a little dissatisfied with some of the game's settings, but they could not complain because of the confidentiality agreement. Furthermore, the game company was backed by several big countries and countless technology companies. If they really talked about the problem of dying 50 times a week and not being able to recover HP under normal circumstances, the first person to solve the problem would not be the problem, but the person who raised the problem. There was still 1.5 months left until the open beta, but after seeing all kinds of interviews, ordinary players felt that they could not wait a day longer. After the interview, the game company finally announced the schedule for the game before the open beta. 15 days before the open beta, release the game's promotional video. 10 days before the open beta, the game cabins would be on sale. 5 days before the open beta, the game's background and information will be announced. 1 day before the open beta, the recharge channel was opened. He looked at the schedule sent by the game company. Everyone on Planet Aqua Blue was boiling with excitement. Chapter 212. Someone is imitating me? The players who had exited the closed beta were busy analyzing their gains and losses in the game in various ways so that they could take the lead in the official open beta in 1.5 months. The Inhumans had disappeared at 0 points and had not appeared for 2 days. Many organizations and forces that were researching Inhumans were in huge trouble. In order to research and make use of the Inhumans, they had invested a lot of energy and money in the early stages. In the end, it had disappeared just like that. The duck that was right in front of his mouth had disappeared without a trace. In order to find the whereabouts of Inhumans, there was an undercurrent under the calm atmosphere of the wasteland planet. It was the same in Shadow. The laboratory in Shadow had invested a lot of financial, material, and human resources in the study of Inhumans. They were at the critical point of their research, but the research subject was gone. Dr. Ludovic, the person in charge of the laboratory in District 1 of Shandu, scratched his head and applied for the military to carry out a large-scale search of Shandu and its surroundings. At the same time, he applied to the higher UPS to use the special forces in Shandu to carry out a blanket search of the city from the details. He was determined to find traces of the Inhumans. While the entire Freedom Federation was in a state of chaos, only the Kylin Hall was able to maintain stable operations, seemingly unaffected by the disappearance of the Inhumans. Link woke up in the morning and washed up. As usual, he was reading newspapers in the study. The news in the newspapers for the past 2 days were mostly the same. The only thing that piqued Link's interest was the rare animal beauty contest organized by the Zhuge Entertainment News. The first round of the rare animal beauty contest organized by Zhuge Entertainment News had ended. This issue of the newspaper had an entire page introducing the shortlisted pets. The funniest thing was that at the end of each pet's introduction, the owner of the pet had to be stated. The introduction of the pet owner alone was several times more than the pet itself. To put it bluntly, this was not a competition of the pet, but the strength of the owner behind the pet. At the end, it also wrote down the follow-up schedule of the Rare Animal Beauty Pageant. On May 8, the 30-10 advancement competition would be held. The final selection would be held on May 11, and the top 3 would be sent out from the top 10. It was May 7, and the beauty pageant would be held in 4 days. It was also the opening day of Link's Rare Animal exhibition. "Boss, Captain Lee just sent a message. The problem with the venue has been solved. It'll be held right opposite the theater, and it'll compete with the Rare Animal Beauty contest," Fu said as he ran in hurriedly. Link's eyes brightened. This was a very fierce frontal attack. To be honest, Link had no intention of winning the competition. He just wanted to use the beauty pageant as an opportunity to promote the fact that the Link clan had good pets. However, he was not happy that he had been disqualified. Since that group of ladies liked the feeling of being surrounded by stars, then he would completely steal their attention in the finals. "All right, I got it. Talk to third brother later and see how the choice of media is going." Fu nodded repeatedly and remembered his boss's words. Then, he left quietly. The choice of animals for the Rare Animal exhibition was also a headache. Many of these pets were Lin Kei's trump cards. If he were to display them, he would be easily exposed. Therefore, he had to be very careful when choosing pets for the exhibition. Link made a list. The first to bear the brunt was the vanilla mud horse. As a perfumed alpaca, its appearance would definitely cause a commotion. No woman could resist the temptation of a long-lasting fragrance. Then, it was the macaw's turn. Link had already told the macaw to prepare a one-man stand-up performance. After that, the curly-haired baboons were the only ones he could bring out. This guy was good at card games, and he would definitely show it off when the time came. The King Kong gorilla who liked to read could also appear, as long as it did not reveal its combat strength. The last one was the Dance King Little Pig. The final segment of the entire Rare Animal exhibition was the introduction of the high-end pork ingredient, Little Fragrant Pig. As for the other pets, they were all purely combat pets, so it was not easy to take them out. At first glance, Link only had 5 pets on display, which was a little too few. But Link's eyes quickly focused on the treasure-hunting mouse eating corn on the table. As his earliest pet, the loyalty of the treasure-hunting mouse was obvious to all. It could always complete the tasks assigned to him easily, and sometimes it even brought him surprises. Link would never mistreat such a meritorious subject. "Little treasure, you're not young anymore, it's time to find a partner, Ying Luo." The fat treasure-hunting mouse was gnawing on corn. After hearing its master's meaningful words, its fat body trembled, and the corn in its hand fell to the ground. It suddenly had a bad feeling. After assigning the treasure-hunting mouse a task, Link took a sip of coffee. His lips curled up as he marveled at his genius idea. If this plan is successfully implemented, then the entire Shita will soon be filled with my eyes. The problem with the Rare Animal exhibition was solved. Link picked up the newspaper again. On the streets and alleys was full of rumors about Link and the Newman family's Laura. It seemed that the media had already verified the rumors. Other than that, Link also saw another piece of news about himself in the tabloid. After venturing into the slums alone and becoming the hall master of the Kylin Hall in less than a month, there seemed to be a Link fever in the slums of Shandu. They even called this a Shanda dream. Recently, there were many young people who wanted to make a name for themselves in the slums. They all wanted to copy Link's method of becoming famous and gain a place in the slums. This had also caused some small gangs in the slums to suffer. After all, if he wanted a place, there was no better way than to go to his house and confiscate his property, or find an opportunity to kill the boss of a small gang. The leaders of these small gangs had already cursed Link's 18 generations of ancestors in secret. "Link, you're angry, but our heads are hanging." They had to be heavily protected when they went out. They didn't even dare to go to the toilet alone, for fear that a rash young man would come out of another cubicle and assassinate them. They lived in fear and suffering every day. Of course, there were also some who managed to break out of the encirclement. A kid named Matthew had successfully killed the boss of a small gang. After killing more than a dozen people in the gang, he had successfully subdued the rest of the thugs and was firmly in the position of boss. It was rumored that this guy was as fast as a ghost. He used a dagger to enter and leave the gang 7 times, and no one could stop him. The remaining thugs had a mental breakdown, and in the end, they put down their weapons and joined him. We'll have to wait and see if this Matthew from who knows where can replicate Link's legendary experience. Streets and Alleys will continue to bring you the latest news. After reading the report, Link's lips curled up. He truly deserved to be the godfather of the underworld. He had set a good example for many proud kids in the slums. Chapter 213 The Rat's Grand Challenge. That night, the treasure-hunting mouse used the Skill Mouse Group Assembly to gather all the mice within a 5-kilometer radius to the backyard of Kylan Hall. The treasure-hunting mouse stood at the top of the rockery with one hand on its waist and the other pointing, directing the mice to get into formation. All the rats were arranged according to their species. There were also techniques to stand in the same type of team, male left, female right. When the tens of thousands of rats had found their positions, the treasure-hunting mouse turned around and reported to Link, who was in the pavilion. "Since you're all ready, let's begin." The treasure-hunting mouse saluted Link obediently and turned to announce to the other mice. The macaw sat beside Link, as did the steel gorilla. The 3 of them were the judges of this rat selection. The macaw was in charge of testing the rat's ability to adapt, Link was in charge of the appearance, and the King Kong was in charge of the rat's strength and skills. Soon, under the lead of the treasure-hunting mouse, all the mice lined up in front of the 3 examiners. The entire back garden had been transformed into a large-scale event site. There was a winding track in the woods. The rats had to follow the track to the finish line and would be attacked by their natural enemies along the way. This was to test the adaptability and agility of the rats. In the fire of the race track, each mouse had to carry an object twice as heavy as its own body and return to the gazebo in the middle of the lake from the back garden along the Bluestone Road. The King Kong gorilla was in charge of the strength and technique assessment. When the load was unloaded, they would then swim 50 meters to the gazebo in the middle of the lake and finally accept Link's appearance test. This was the entire examination process. Link wanted to use this test to select the tens of thousands of rats and assign them to jobs based on their results. At the treasure-hunting mouse's command, all the rats went to the woods in the back garden and began the triathlon assessment. The rats trembled as they walked into the small forest in the back garden. There was already a track arranged on the ground, and the rats only had to follow the track. Starting from the bushes on the ground, the mice walked carefully along the single plank bridge built with wooden sticks against the tree trunks. The macaw sat on the wicker chair and started playing. It couldn't help but ask, "Isn't the adaptability test too unchallenging?" For this group of rats, using a wooden stick and jumping on the road were the most basic abilities. What kind of good seedlings can be selected? Link smiled. Of course we won't be able to choose anything, but if we release a 10-meter-long python behind all the rats that can eat dozens of rats in one bite, we'll be able to test it. Think about it, all the rats will definitely run away in panic when they sense the python's aura. If they can move quickly, accurately, and ruthlessly along the route, they must be very adaptable. If a few raptors suddenly pounced on them during this process, the rats will be even more panicked. The macaw stared at Link in shock. After a while, it said, "Link, you're really a dog." Link chuckled, treating this as a compliment from Jin. He waved his hand and said, "Thank you for your praise. But if I don't do this, how can I choose good seedlings to accept my transformation plan?" Yes, the transformation plan. Link had done all this to select the rats that were born with extraordinary qualities and modify them. As the saying goes, the strong will always be strong. The best among the rats would only become stronger after being modified by his bug race divine weapon. Link named this plan the Shitu Occupation Plan. Link would modify the most elite rats to carry out infiltration missions like special agents. The attractive and agile mice were the focus of this mission. At the rare animal exhibition, Link would bring out the more attractive rats for sale. Lin K's target customers were very simple. Those who had the time to visit the exhibition and even paid for a mouse as a pet must be from well-off families. For the ordinary people in the slums, it was barely enough to make money and fill their stomachs. Who would be in the mood to spend a lot of money on rats? Wouldn't it be delicious to buy a few kilograms of pork with that money? When these pet rats entered the thousands of households in the uptown, a huge intelligence network was built. His pet mouse would eavesdrop at home and then send the news back through the mouse Link had arranged. Not only did he have access to all the information in the uptown, but he also had first-hand information on some of the major families. As the exhibition became more and more famous, more and more people would buy pets in the future, and the scope would cover the entire Sand City. By then, Link's intelligence network would definitely be more detailed than Chitotek's, and the information he would obtain would be among the best. The back garden was like a sponge. Even when tens of thousands of rats entered, they did not cause any huge tremors. However, with the appearance of the rubber python, the rats in the back garden clearly began to panic. A rubber python that could grow and shrink, become thick and thin, became the nightmare of all the rats. The rubber python slowly chased after him. The task given to it by its master was to drive these rats away, and as the process went deeper, it had to make more excessive actions, carry out various raids to disrupt the pace of the rats' progress, create man-made obstacles and unexpected events, and test the rats' reaction time. Link had even given the rubber python a special privilege, which was to swallow all the rats that were lagging behind. Of course, he wasn't really eating it. He was just temporarily storing it in his stomach. Ever since the rubber python came to Kylan Hall, it had been serving fish and meat every day. Now, it no longer looked up to the thin and weak little mice. Not to mention not having any meat, it was also full of fur. Soon, the raptor troops hiding in the dark began to move out. The sand eagle and the white saber sea eagle were carrying 2 young children, so they could use these rats to hunt. Xiao Xiaobai and Little Du were very excited. After all, they had never seen so many rats before. Although it couldn't be dropped, it was still very interesting to catch a few to play with. The wooden stick was narrow and slippery. The rats trembled as they walked on it, and they had to be careful of the birds of prey flying down from the sky at all times. If they accidentally fell, they would be swallowed by the giant python hidden in the bushes. The entire forest had turned into a dragon's pool and a tiger's den. At the end of the forest, Link had prepared many discus hanging from iron wires. Each discus weighed 2 kilograms. The rats had to drag the discus 800 meters forward to the rockery garden, then jump into the water and swim the last 50 meters before they could reach the 3 judges. 10 minutes later, a few different rats emerged from the water one after another. They came to the pavilion in the middle of the lake, drenched. The macaw leaned in and took a look. Yo! Hamster, hamster, water rat, smelly shrew, chew, twice, jing, once, bamboo rat, there are quite a lot of species of shrew. Chapter 214 Rat Secret Agent Team. Link's eyes brightened. He had thought that the rats that could win the first group would be of the same species, but he didn't expect that one of each species would come. This was in line with the idea of the first batch of elite rats having different species and different effects. Link looked up and saw that the rats had just reached the other side and were unloading their goods. They were now swimming in the water. The giant python sneaked into the water from the other side, while the sand eagle circled in the sky with his family. Once a rat sank into the water due to exhaustion, they would immediately start to rescue it. The rubber python had never thought that it would one day become a pool lifeguard, and even more so, it had never thought that it would save its favorite food. The life of a snake was really full of all kinds of surprises. In the end, more than 500 rats completed the final test and climbed up the gazebo in the middle of the lake. Reaction, technique, and strength could be seen with the naked eye based on the results. Only aesthetics. Considering that most of the people who bought rats as pets were children of rich families in the upper city or ladies from rich families, it was easy to sum up the aesthetic standards of these two types of people. It was enough as long as one of them was cute. The rubber python slithered ashore, opened its mouth, and wriggled its abdomen, releasing all the rats it had previously swallowed. According to the standards of cuteness and naivety, Link picked out more than 50 rats that looked pretty. Then, he picked the best rats from the second group. Little treasure, it's done. The remaining rats can be dismissed. Link had already picked out what he wanted. After all, quality was better than quantity when it came to synthesis. Well, the main reason was that Link didn't have enough HP to create a mouse of this size, so he could only plan slowly. The first group was the 5 rats that reached the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Link crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at them. His tone was extremely serious. You are the 5 rats selected from the 30,000 rats after going through many challenges. You are the elites of the rats. From now on, your rat lives will be filled with excitement and shine with different colors. Link then turned to look at the macaw. Lao Jin, who was lying on the wicker chair, stood up impatiently and said, "These empty words are too meaningless. Isn't eating and drinking good better than anything else?" Even so, Jin still translated Link's words to the 5 rats. Link had prepared nail-sized crystal chips for the 5 rats. As for the effects, Link had already simulated it before. The success rate was between 80% and 90%, which was quite compatible. This set of 5 crystal chips was brought back by the members who were outside. Ever since Link announced the rules of the Kylin Hall and handed over the internal and external affairs to Third Brother and Fu with Alan assisting from the side, he had also set a new rule. He was to collect as many materials as possible. This set of crystal chips was found in the house of an old gambler who was in debt. Although it was a combination of chips from the previous 2 generations on the market, it was a whole set of combat chips with different focuses. It would only be sold for a few thousand yuan, but it was the most suitable for synthesis. Link looked at the 5 rats in front of him. Hamster, hamster, water rat, stinky crickets, and bamboo rat. Hazi's body was small, and he could dig holes, climb trees, climb mountains, and wade through water. His adaptability was extremely strong, and he had extremely strong vision. His ability to dig holes was superb. He could be the all-rounder in the team. Hamsters had poor vision, but their sense of smell was extremely sensitive. They were suitable for reconnaissance work. Water rats were big, good at swimming, and had the ability to dive. Because of their big muscles, they could play the role of assaulters and main offensive forces to a certain extent. The stinky shrew was good at jumping and had a fierce temperament. Most importantly, it had a skill that could stun and paralyze the enemy in battle. It could also create opportunities for its teammates to escape and act as part of the attack and retreat. The bamboo rat's body size was slightly inferior to the water rat's, but its thick claws and muscles were good at digging, so it could be competent for important logistics work. According to the 5 mice's specialties, Link used the corresponding AI chip on them and began synthesizing them. Just like the first time he synthesized the treasure hunting mouse, the mouse was only level 1, so the synthesis did not consume much HP. Combining the 5 rats had cost Link 70 health points, which was almost nothing. Looking at the 5 blood cocoons in front of him, Link called over the treasure-hunting mouse. "From now on, you'll be in charge of leading the 5 of them. This rat secret service squad is in charge of carrying out special missions. As their leader, you'll have to follow them when they're carrying out missions. However, you'll only be in charge of scouting and bringing up the rear. They'll still do the main work." The treasure-hunting mouse nodded, indicating that it understood its master's words. The quiet King Kong suddenly asked, "A secret agent team with 6 rats, isn't that a little too much?" The macaw lying on the wicker chair jumped up instantly, raised its wings and replied, "I know this. Because 5 won't do." Link was speechless and could only applaud. "Good." He really flashed away. Immediately after, Link began to evolve the second batch of 50 mice. This batch of mice was going to be sold as cute pets to the rich families uptown. The most important role was to collect information. This time, Link used a USB drive. It was almost impossible for a mouse with a small brain to remember a conversation and information that contained a lot of information. Therefore, at this time, it was necessary to turn on the support. The USB drive was used as a device to store information, which indirectly added storage space for the mouse. The success rate was also around 90%. This meant that mice were small rodent-like mammals and were very suitable for synthesis with metals, electronic components, and other materials. Just as Link turned the 50 cute hamsters into strange blood cocoons, the first 5 rat secret service agents broke out of their cocoons. Link glanced at it. The rat's original abilities had not changed, but the new ability was the AI chip's ability. Synchronization chip reconnaissance. The hamster's reconnaissance chip can send the enemy's location and information to the other 4 teammates in the form of brainwaves, doubling the perception. Synchronization chip assault. Water rat's assault chip can transmit the assaulter's status and environment to his teammates in real time, doubling the speed of his assault. The 5 different chips gave the 5 rats in the Secret Service team different abilities. However, the biggest use of the synchronization chip was to make the 5 individually customized rats into one. When they moved together, the synchronization chip could provide a powerful effect. It was like 5 different parts had been put together to form a powerful robot. The individual strength of the 5 agent rats would also be activated, and at the same time, their overall ability would be raised to a higher level. Chapter 215 The Leader of the Hamster Tribe. The 5 of you will be members of the Rat Secret Service Squad from now on. Xiaobao is the captain, so you will all follow Xiaobao from now on. The synthesized mice were related to Link by blood. Coupled with the help of the chip in their heads, they could understand Link's words easily. The 5 mice obediently ran behind Treasure Hunting Mouse and stood in a line. They didn't dare to look around, but stared at the back of the head of the mouse in front. If each of them were to hold a branch in their hands, they would be considered new recruits. Soon, 50 charmingly naive spy mice broke out of their cocoons and were reborn one after another. Link stretched out his hand, and a spy rat obediently lay on his palm. The spy mouse's appearance had not changed at all, and it was still pitiful. After all, she was personally chosen by Link. Even his heart almost melted when he looked at her, not to mention the noble ladies of the uptown. Wouldn't their maternal love overflow when they saw her? Information storage. The brain of the spy mouse is digitalist. The brain can store 5 hours of video or 72 hours of audio information. Mobile interface. The spy mouse can transmit data and information through tail contact, and tail entanglement can transmit all information within 5 minutes. Tail can also connect to the USB port of electronic devices and obtain information from the device. After looking at the 2 passive skills of the spy mouse, Link couldn't help but catch another spy mouse. When he put the 2 spy mice together, they quickly stood back to back, and their 2 tails were like magnetic poles of the opposite sex. They quickly entangled together and began to transmit information. He could clearly see a weak electric signal on the tail, which was transmitted to the body of another mouse through the tail. Hiss! 5 hours of video, 3 days of audio information minus the spy mouse's daily rest and sleep time, it's equivalent to listening in on a week's content. Link's eyes brightened when he read the spy mouse's evaluation. Evaluation, an epoch-making innovation that can replace video cameras, recording pens, and USB drives. Link couldn't help but speed up. He synthesized all the elite soldiers and generals that he had selected from the second group. These mice were not popular with the children or young ladies of rich families because of their ordinary appearance. Therefore, they could only hide underground, and their job was to communicate with the pet spy mice that were carrying out missions outside and exchange data. The spy mice would then bring back the data and hand it over to the professionals of the Kylan Hall for content analysis. The macaw looked at the blood-red cocoons on the ground and said in wonder, "You have so much blood on you. You synthesized so much in one go that you don't look like you've lost too much blood." Lin K looked at his HP, 139/1730, and chose to upgrade his HP recovery spell without hesitation. LV20 level 21 requires 23200 experience points. Do you want to level up? Yes/no. Although the Moonwell water could restore health, Link couldn't waste it on this rare godly healing item that could be used in battle. So, he decided to use experience to max out his health. King Kong, I'll arrange for these spy mice to be in the Beast Park. You can help to look after them for the next 2 days. The steel gorilla, King Kong, put down the Diamond Sutra in his hand and nodded in a calm tone. Don't worry, I will take good care of them. When all the blood cocoons were broken, the entire Mid-Lake Pavilion seemed to have become a place for some kind of religious ceremony. The lakeside pavilion was filled with rats. They all looked up at Link, who was in the middle of the pavilion, as if they were performing some kind of worship ritual. All right, King Kong, you can take them back to rest now. Seeing that the selection was over, the macaw hugged the back of its head with its wings and jumped down from the rattan chair. Since it's over, I'll be going back too. King Kong stood up, holding a small green fluorescent flag and walking in front. The spy mice followed King Kong in an orderly line, like kindergartners wearing yellow hats and crossing the road behind their teachers after school. The treasure-hunting mouse turned around and called its 5 new underlings, ready to take them back to the little forest in the back hall to get familiar with the place. She was just about to greet him when Link called out to her. The 5 of you can go back now. Little treasure, you stay behind. The 5 mice of the Rat Secret Service team looked at each other, froze for a moment, and walked away obediently. They already knew the smell of the treasure-hunting mouse, so they could find their residence by following the smell. The treasure-hunting mouse looked at its boss in confusion. It didn't know why its boss asked it to stay. Did he have something to tell it? Link had a strange smile on his face, like that of a clown. The treasure-hunting mouse trembled slightly, suddenly having a bad feeling. Little treasure, look what I brought you. As Link spoke, he took out a little mouse from his pocket. It was white and looked very pitiful. What do you think? The wife I chose for you isn't bad, right? The treasure-hunting mouse's sesame-sized eyes were wide open. It didn't know when its master had gotten this mouse. Take him back. I'll give you a mission as well. You must give birth to 2 children within a week, or I'll hold you responsible. The treasure-hunting mouse held its head and suddenly felt a headache. Could it be that he was going to fall into the same situation as the sand eagle? Don't, Ying Luo. Every moment of the spring night is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. I won't hold you back from your hard work. I'm going to sleep. Link then handed the white mouse over to the treasure-hunting mouse and left with his hands behind his back, hiding his achievements. Xiao Bao, don't let me down. This is the partner I've chosen for you, Ying Ying, Link mumbled as he left, like a worried parent. The treasure-hunting mouse froze on the spot. Its brain went blank, and its whole body cracked. What era was this? There was still an arranged marriage? The treasure-hunting mouse tilted its head and looked at the white mouse. Oh! Not to mention, her nose was still her nose, Her eyes were still her eyes, and she looked quite pretty. It seemed that Ying Ying was still okay. Squeak! Treasure hunting mouse said. The little white mouse's eyes flickered. It lowered its head and nodded. What happened next didn't need to be said. As Link's #1 general, the treasure hunting mouse had to be on guard for its master's mission. Even if the task was difficult and the time was short, they had to brace themselves and overcome the difficulties. It was now the commander of the Rat Secret Service Squad and the leader of hundreds of spy rats. As a leader, he should be the first to step up when he encountered difficulties. If the first time didn't work, he would do it a second time. If the second time didn't work, he would do it a third time. The treasure hunting mouse followed the guiding principle of roll up your sleeves and work hard. I'm the most handsome on the way to have a baby, and it fought with difficulties several times overnight. Only when the sun rose did they call for a retreat. He was so tired that he fell asleep on the back of the white mouse. Shortly after daybreak, Link received a call from Ah Fu as soon as he got out of bed and finished packing. Boss, the little fragrant pig's babies have all grown strong. We can start slaughtering them. Then let's stick to the original plan. Link's eyes brightened. Chapter 216 All Pig Banquet. Link casually took a bite of his sandwich, then picked up his coat and rushed out. By the time they arrived at Kylan Hall's entrance, Ah Fu and Old San had already arranged for a truck. There was a pink little pig locked in the cage in the trunk. Third brother quickly opened the door for Link. Boss, we're all ready. We can set off at any time. Has the head chef finished his instructions? Link asked before he got into the car. I've already said it, I'm waiting for it now. Soon, they arrived at the back door of the glorious hotel. Link and third brother were waiting in the luxurious private room. Fu and his underlings were helping out in the kitchen to ensure the success of this operation. No one knew better than Fu the importance of the little pig to the Kylan Hall. The boss wanted to use the little pig to open up the high-end food and beverage market in Shandu. As the only force with Little Fragrant Pig, as long as the brand of Little Fragrant Pig was spread, the Kylan Hall's reputation and strength in Shandu would be raised to another level. To survive in a place like the Sand City where the strong preyed on the weak, one needed to have a skill. No matter what, you must be ahead of others in one aspect to have a foothold. Otherwise, they would be easily replaced or eliminated if they could not do anything. The core technology of the Link Gang was the smuggling of wild animals. Now that he was in charge of Kylan Hall, he urgently needed to launch technology that could hold the ground. The cards that Lin K wanted to play were the pet chain and the high-end food and beverage of the little pig. Therefore, there was no room for mistakes in this production. Link and Mr. Kong waited in the private room while drinking tea. During this time, third brother reported on the recent affairs of the Kylan Hall. What do you think of Alan after these few days? Link had asked Alan to be third brother's assistant because he wanted third brother to consider Alan. Although it sounds like he was bribed, I still have to say that this person is not bad, third brother said after a moment of silence. The third brother began to speak with fervor and assurance, and his eyes also flashed with an irrepressible appreciation for Alan. From the moment boss asked him to divide the people, he showed that he was very familiar with his subordinates. He knew everyone's strengths and characteristics at his fingertips, and he could put the right people in the right positions. Just knowing how to use people well is enough to make us give him a high position. Secondly, I was very conscientious in my work. With his help, I quickly picked up the dock business. In just 2 days, I've sorted out all the operations, business transactions, and account books of White Crane Hall. After a few days of understanding and talking, I can only say that White Crane Hall has misjudged and buried such an expert. Link had never seen third brother speak so highly of anyone before. Even Jack, the leader of the Jack Gang, had not received such praise. Then it seems that this Alan really has some ability, Ying Luo. Why don't you call him over for a meal today? The third brother panicked and wondered if he had praised her too much just now. Boss, this is just my opinion. The details can only be confirmed after you personally check it, he quickly said. Under Link's arrangement, Number 3 called Alan and asked him to meet at the Glorious Hotel. Although Alan was assisting third brother had never mentioned anything about the little fragrant pig. Therefore, Alan knew nothing about the reason why he came to the Glorious Hotel this time. He thought that the assessment had ended and he would be announced to stay. Alan carefully knocked on the door and entered the room. Link glanced at it and was surprised. It had only been a few days, and Alan's loyalty had risen to 83. It seemed that this guy had a strong sense of belonging to the Kylan Hall. How have you been these past few days? I've more or less adapted to it. Alan's answer was reasonable. Have a seat. I called you here today to have a meal. Alan did not stand on ceremony. He pulled out a chair and sat down, but his mind was full of doubts. It didn't seem right to call him over for dinner so early in the morning. However, he couldn't say much and could only wait and see. Boss, third brother asked. If this experiment is successful, will it be promoted at the rare animal exhibition? Link nodded and glanced at Alan. He didn't beat around the bush and said, if today's experiment is successful, I'll have to let the kitchen practice several ways to cook pork in the next 2 days. Alan lowered his head to drink his water. He knew about the rare animal exhibition. The leader, Link, was going to compete on the same stage with the rare animal beauty contest organized by the Shudu Entertainment News. He wanted to compete with the other side in the final round of the beauty contest and take revenge for his withdrawal. In fact, Alan didn't support this. After all, the women who participated in the beauty contest were all from influential families in the uptown. Although they couldn't directly influence the situation in Shandu, they could still whisper some pillow talk to them. The Kylan Hall had just stabilized, and it was not a good time to make too many enemies. Women, in particular, were more easily petty and vengeful. If you ruined their mood, you would be remembered for a long time. However, Alan was still guilty. He knew that he had no right or position to speak when it came to matters that involved the gang's decision. Just as he was thinking, there was a knock on the door. Fu then pushed the door open, followed by the head chef and the waiter pushing the dining cart. There were a total of 6 plate covers of various sizes on the dining cart. These plate covers locked the taste and temperature of the food, so that the taste of the freshly cooked food would not change while it was being transported. Soon, 6 plates were placed on the table, and a strange meaty fragrance sneaked out from the gap between the plates. As the head chef lifted the plate cover, the aroma surged out like an iron horse, making people surrender without warning. It smells so good. The third brother couldn't help but sigh. Alan was also defeated by the alluring fragrance and became the captive of the delicious food in front of him. The head chef bared his teeth and smiled. He walked forward and introduced them one by one. Boss, this time, I presented 6 dishes with different parts of the little pig. First of all, the pig's head meat and crispy pig's ears were mixed with an exclusive sauce that made the taste of the pork even more intense. Next was pan-fried pork chops, which were made from the most essential tenderloin of small pigs. Then, this red braised meat had an alluring color. It was fat but not greasy, and was truly a treasure. This pig's trotter with soy sauce is also very flavorful. In the end, I made twice cooked pork with the remaining part. Boss, please try and give your evaluation. The head chef stared at Lin K nervously. He didn't know why the boss would send a pig over so early in the morning, wanting to have a taste of the all-pig feast. Moreover, everyone in the gang was on guard against the enemy. However, when he was cooking, he found that the pork he had brought today had delicate skin and fewer pores than a human's. There was no need to scald its hair at all, and the meat did not have any fishy smell. The fat and lean meat had even reached a golden ratio, and it was quite chewy. They had never seen such a pig breed before. When he was cooking with oil, this feeling became even stronger, as if he had become one with the pork. There was no need to judge when to take it out of the pot, when to add the ingredients, and when to absorb the soup. The changes in the pork in the pot were clearly written. It could be said that this was the smoothest cooking the head chef had done in decades. It was also the most perfect combination with the ingredients. You should sit down and have a taste, Lin Ke said to the head chef. As a chef, he would not know how to improve if he did not taste his own food. Chapter 217 Another Fierce General. The head chef was stunned for a moment. His hands trembled slightly as he asked in surprise, I can too. The head chef saw the situation today, and he had been in the back kitchen for many years. He could tell at a glance that this pig was not an ordinary breed. At the very least, he had never seen this type of pork in his more than 10 years of working in the glorious hotel. It was already rare to make such a treasure without making a mistake. The head chef never expected to try it. As the head chef, if you don't try it, how do you know how good your cooking is? How can you improve in the future? Lin Ke's question rendered the head chef speechless, but he did not know how to explain. Fu stepped forward and pressed on the head chef's shoulders, directly pushing him to his seat. Just eat it if the boss wants you to. Link glanced at everyone. No one dared to move their chopsticks first. They were all waiting for him to start. Without any nonsense, he picked up a piece of pig's head meat, dipped it in the secret sauce he had prepared, and stuffed it into his mouth. Link's eyes brightened. The meat was fat but not greasy. It melted in his mouth and left a delicious taste in his mouth. Especially when it was in the stomach, there would be a warm current in the lower abdomen, which would quickly flow through the blood vessels to the whole body, as if the whole body was in a hot spring, warm and comfortable. Seeing this, the others also picked up their chopsticks, knives and forks and put some into their own bowls and plates. Then, everyone's eyes were like Link's, bursting with shock. This Ying Luo, is this the pig's head I made? Why is it so delicious? The head chef was dumbfounded, constantly savoring the lingering fragrance in his mouth. It wasn't that he hadn't made pig's head meat before, but he had never made pig's head meat with such a taste. It simply didn't seem like something he could make. The head chef tried to eat the pig's ear again, and the crunchy feeling made his mind go blank. The head chef had been in Shadu for more than 10 years. He had also participated in many cooking competitions or had exchanges with other head chefs. However, he could guarantee that no one in Shadu could make red oil pig ears to this extent. The head chef gulped down a mouthful of water and rinsed his mouth to calm himself down. It was only one day. Although he had a double fly at the Golden Jade Hotel next door last night, it couldn't improve his cooking skills. In just one night, this red oil pig's ear had become so crisp and delicious. So this must not be because of him, but because of the ingredients themselves. The waiters were waiting outside and would only come in when the customers inside needed them. At this moment, there were only 5 people eating in silence in the luxury box. No one spoke. Because Ying Ying didn't have time. The taste of each dish was far beyond the past, reaching a height that the previous head chefs could only dream of. As he ate, 2 lines of tears appeared on the head chef's cheeks. The other 4 people's chopsticks did not stop moving. They were all holding a bowl and looking at the head chef in surprise. This person, why did he start crying while eating? Even if it was delicious, it shouldn't be to the point of crying, right? In the end, it was still Afu who struggled to put down the pig trotter in his hand. He patted the head chef's shoulder and asked, "Why are you crying?" The head chef wiped his tears and said with a sobbing tone, "A chef can die without regrets if he can encounter such a top-grade ingredient in his lifetime. Although I don't know what breed this pig is, just the ingredients alone can raise the quality of the food cooked by several grades. It's a blessing for a chef to have such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Then you'll be blessed in the future. Since you're the head chef of Brilliant Hotel, you'll definitely be the one to cook the little fragrant pig in the future. There's no second choice, so you'd better get used to it as soon as possible." Link felt a little empty inside as he spoke. He only felt better after eating a piece of twice-cooked pork. Lin Ke ignored the head chef who was overwhelmed with happiness. Instead, he turned to Alan who was eating with his head lowered. Alan, now you know why I called you over for this meal, right? Hearing this, Alan put down his bowl and chopsticks, wiped his mouth with a tissue, and nodded. I understand. The hall leader wants to use the rare animal fair as an opportunity to promote this kind of pork. Alan looked at the half-pig trotter in the bowl and subconsciously swallowed his saliva. Just based on the taste of this breed of pork, it's not a problem at all to occupy a place in Shandu. I've also eaten a lot of food at a famous restaurant in the uptown, but I've never eaten pork with such a flavor, it's simply unforgettable. When he ate, he felt as if he was in the clouds, enjoying the best gift from nature. However, the moment she put down her bowl and chopsticks, she felt an endless sense of loss. This kind of food that can stir up people's emotions is simply the poison in food. I'd like to call it the strongest. Link's lips curled up. Smart people were indeed not simple. Third brother and Afu had never mentioned this, but from today's conversation and the meal, Alan had guessed most of Link's plan. As expected of the well-rounded scholar, little Sun Shu. You've only guessed the first reason. There's still the second reason. Link continued setting up the spell to test the guy's abilities. Aaron frowned slightly, and he thought of the second reason. He smiled bitterly. I'm still a former member of the White Crane Hall, and the Hall Master has told me about his plan without hiding anything, and even let me eat delicious food that I've never had before. If I'm not wrong, this should be my last meal. Link was taken aback. Alan's back scoop had really caught him off guard. However, Link immediately understood why Alan did not think of this. It was mainly because when he was at the White Crane Hall, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. When he ran for the 13th Tycoon with Jack, he lost completely. Although he still had his abilities, his heart had been ground by reality and was no longer sharp. Humans weren't born to be pessimist. He must have experienced something that had turned his hope into ashes, turning him into a gloomy pessimist. Then let me tell you, you are now an official member of the Kylan Hall. You'll also pass the test for the members of White Crane Hall. Alan's listless eyes immediately brightened up like a light bulb whose power was gradually approaching the threshold. It was so bright that it gave people the illusion that it was about to explode. Thank you, boss. I'll definitely do my best in the future. Link picked up a piece of pig's ear in red oil at random and munched on it. There's no need to do so after death. The Kylan Hall is newly built and is lacking talents like you. From now on, you will be fully in charge of the dock's business. Third brother will withdraw from the dock and take charge of Kylan Hall's territory and expansion. As soon as Link finished speaking, a system notification appeared. Alan's loyalty +7, loyalty up to 90 points. Chapter 218 The Amazing Effect of Fragrant Pork Meat. Alan looked as if he had seen a ghost, even with a hint of fear. As soon as he got started, he gave him full authority to Kylan Hall's dock business, which was extremely important and accounted for 1/3 of the turnover. It was like a hot potato that had just been taken out of the stove and suddenly put into his hand. At this moment, Alan only felt one thing, and that was the heat. If it was a small leader or something, Alan would be happy to accept it. However, he had handed over all the dock business to him as soon as he came up. What did he do? Hall Master, I'm afraid this is not appropriate. Alan stood up in fear and trepidation. I'm the remnant of White Crane Hall. The Hall Master is already very grateful for taking us in, and now he's suddenly handing over such an important business to me. I'm extremely terrified. Moreover, the elites under the Hall Master would definitely not accept such an arrangement. This would easily create a rift between the members. Once again, I implore Hall Master to retract your order and let me start from the bottom. The third brother was all smiles as he exchanged a look with the boss. With third brother's understanding of boss, Alan's performance today could definitely be said to have passed. Don't use the person you suspect, and use the person without suspicion. As for your worry about the dissatisfaction of your subordinates, I can only say that you're overthinking it. If my elites were also a bunch of jealous people, do you think I can overturn the giant white crane hall with just Link's help? Link chuckled. Alan, third brother explained, do you dare to bet that if the old buddies from Link's gang find out that you're starting from the bottom, they'll definitely spit blood at me and boss. They'll say that we're blind and that you're in trouble? Alan frowned. He didn't believe that. However, seeing how confident Mr. Kong was, he wavered. It was because he found it hard to believe such a phenomenon. Wasn't it crazy to push a survivor to be his leader? It was simply a fantasy. All right, I'll bet with you. Alan wanted to see if the original elites of the Link gang were as powerful as Link and third brother had said. The third brother smiled and quickly said, then it's settled. I'll call them now and tell them that the boss has decided to keep you, but everyone has to start from the bottom and see their reaction with that. Third brother took out his phone and began to type a message. He could not wait to see Alan suffer. Link ate a few more mouthfuls and only put down his chopsticks when he felt full. You have obtained the satisfied effect. I'm satisfied. If I'm sick, I'll cure it. If I'm not, I'll strengthen my body. Recovers 1 health point and strength +1 every hour for 12 hours. Link was stunned when he saw the system notification, but he was overjoyed when he saw the contented effect. The satisfaction effect that lasted for half a day was too powerful. Link had mentioned before that in the early stages of Destiny, there were very few items that could restore players' HP, which made them even more precious to NPCs. In the underground black market, a bottle of secondary healing potion could be sold for 30,000 to 50,000. Now, the meal made from the little pig actually had a HP recovery function. Although it only increased 1 HP per hour, it could only recover 12 HP for 12 hours, not to mention the additional 1 strength. To those NPCs, eating a meal that could restore health and strengthen their bodies was simply a great profit. Although 12 HP was not a lot, it was very precious to NPCs who could not be resurrected after death. It seems that I have to consider the price of the little pig carefully. Just as Link was deep in thought, third brother's phone began to ring. A call came in first. Third brother showed his phone screen to Alan. The caller was Quentin, a street gang leader who was Link's loyal supporter. Third brother turned on the speaker and picked up the call, pretending not to know anything. Hey, Quentin, what's the matter? Is there something on the street that you can't handle? The heavy breathing on the other end of the phone was clear. After a few snorts, he said, Third brother, what's your decision? What decision? The third brother asked despite knowing the answer. It's about Alan. On the other end of the phone, Quentin sounded a little anxious. Such a person who is well versed in both literature and martial arts is directly demoted to the basic level? I really don't know if this is your idea or boss's idea. If that's what you want, then I have to say that you should go to the ophthalmology department. What if it's boss's idea? Number 3 couldn't help but smile. He then looked at the eldest, Link, who was sitting calmly on the fishing platform. After a moment of silence, Quentin said, If that's what you want, boss, I'll talk to you tonight. Even if the Kylan Hall already has your white paper fan, with Alan's strength, it shouldn't be a problem for him to be a red stick, right? If the other gangs know about this, they'll laugh at us for being blind. Okay, I know. I still have something to do. We'll talk about it in detail when we meet tonight. Okay. Third brother hurriedly ended the conversation. As soon as he hung up, there were 5 unread messages on his phone. Third brother opened it and displayed the messages one by one. They were all questions from the old members of the Link gang. Do you believe me now? Do you want to see anything else? Alan's face was blank. He couldn't understand why these thugs, who had been hostile to each other a week ago, would be so indignant for him that they would even go so far as to challenge Link, the clan leader. They were not related and even had a gap in the past. There was no benefit in standing up for him, so why bother? This was completely different from the three views of the slums in Shadu that Alan had come into contact with before. Yingluo, why did they all help me? Link took a sip of the refreshing tea and slowly said, it's because all of them really treat gangs as their home, not a job that's just for them to find a job and survive. What they said was from the bottom of their hearts, who didn't want their family to get better and better. In the workplace, you only care about whether they pay you on time and whether the risk is high. This is the essential difference. Alan fell into a daze. An unprecedented idea hit his brain, shattering the values he had built up in the slums. Do you think the gang is your home? Aaron muttered, his eyes becoming more and more lost. Just as Alan was in a daze, the head chef moved closer to Link and asked carefully, Boss, we've only used half of the meal today. How should we deal with the other half of the pork? The head chef knew that the meat was precious. After eating it, he felt that his chi and blood were exuberant, and he could even feel his aura growing stronger. He didn't dare to deal with such a good thing on his own. You in the kitchen will find a way to make the remaining half of the pig into lard fried rice. After that, he would distribute a lunch to each of the brothers of Kylan Hall, including all the staff members of Glorious Hotel and Golden Jade Hotel. It's only interesting when good things are shared with everyone. The head chef's mouth was wide open, and he was dumbfounded. He didn't expect the boss to make such a generous decision. Perhaps the staff at the bottom level would only feel that this meal was particularly fragrant, but only he knew that everyone was eating a lot of money. Chapter 219 Apocalypse. Alan was stunned and stared at Link. This new boss had a unique charm to him. He seemed to understand the meaning of treating the gang as home. Boss Link treated everyone as his family, which was why everyone treated the Kylan Hall as their home. This kind of thing was always done in the shoes of others and not by asking others first. All right, I'll leave the rest to you. Lin K patted the head chef's shoulder and continued, practice a few ways to cook pork in the next 2 days. Soon, you will become the best chef in the entire Shandu. The head chef nodded repeatedly. He naturally understood what Lin K meant. With such an exclusive supply of fragrant pig ingredients, even a chef's apprentice could become a rising star in the food and beverage industry. Link then looked at third brother and the silent Alan. As for the trouble you caused, third brother, you can settle it yourself. At this moment, third brother's forehead was covered in sweat. He had just made a bet with Alan and informed him of the decision to start from the bottom. But now, his phone kept ringing. It was all text messages from his old friends, all of which were filled with fierce and righteous indignation. Okay, don't worry, boss, I'll definitely settle this. Number 3 promised as he wiped his sweat. Link returned to the Kylan Hall. Today's test on the quality of the meat of Little Siang pork had boosted his confidence in the rare animal exhibition in a few days. At that time, the alluring fragrance alone would be able to attract the people in the theater. As for the price, in view of the fact that the fragrant pig banquet would only obtain the satisfying effect after eating to the point of being full, it was not just a saying to strengthen the body after eating. Link thought for a long time but still couldn't write down the price. Forget it, let's just use the auction method. The starting price will be 30,000 wasteland money. Every week, Brilliant Hotel will limit it to 7 tables. 1 table a day will be used to look at the high-end restaurants under the Newman family. Pick 5 representative restaurants and limit them to 1 meal a week. They will also be included in the auction. After setting the tone of the pig feast, Link let out a long sigh. They had made sufficient preparations. The next step was to build up their influence. In this regard, they still needed Benjamin to use his identity as the second generation of the military to mobilize some of his friends in the uptown to support them. In addition, the media was also indispensable. The first to bear the brunt was the reporter from Shadu TV station, Nicole. Of course, the influence of a new reporter like Nicole was not enough to satisfy Lin K. He needed more momentum. Link picked up the newspapers and took out streets and alleys. He laid them out on his antique desk made of yellow rosewood and stared at the unsewed corner of the newspaper. If you have any interesting news or anecdotes, please call 232-093723. If you pass the review, you will receive a reward for the news and a beautiful gift. What are you waiting for? Pick up the phone quickly. Hello, is this Streets and Alleys? I have an interesting piece of news, I don't know if you'd be interested, Ying Ying. 10 minutes later. Hello, please provide your personal information and bank account number. After the follow-up verification is completed, we will mail the news reward and beautiful gifts to your door. No need, I'm just a bystander who likes to watch a show. After hanging up, Link's lips curled up. With the participation of a gossip newspaper like Street Corner, he didn't have to worry about the attention and popularity. When he was done, Link leaned back in his chair and let out a long sigh. Now, everything was ready, except for the crucial wind. He had already done everything he could. Now, he only had to wait for the finals of the Rare Animal Beauty pageant in a few days. At that time, a street-to-door battle would be held. After that, Link took a look at his stats window. He was now at level 21+, Elite, and his HP and 7-dimensional attributes had greatly increased. As for the difference in attributes between them and the normal Elite NPCs, Lin Ke was also helpless. Who told him to have the player interface and NPC template? Every time he leveled up, he only had 3 potential points. For normal NPCs, they were the same as players, given 3 potential points each time they leveled up. However, after becoming an elite NPC, all attributes would +1 for every level. The increase in 7 attributes would leave the players far behind. However, in Lin Ke's player interface, he would still use the same method as other players after leveling up, so his potential was always at 3 points. However, even though Link had less health and lower attributes compared to a true elite NPC, he was strong because he was a scholar and had many powerful skills. Especially after Li Zijun had taught him the military killing fist, Link had chosen to use the level 20 Sage reward upgrade on this currently strongest offensive skill. This allowed the military killing fist to evolve once again and become his only exclusive skill. Military killing fist level 1, unique skill of the King of Soldiers of Shandu, Li Zijun controlling killing intent, certain death, self-defense reduced by 25%, causing 400 points of damage to the enemy at the same time. It will cause a bleeding effect, causing 20 points of damage per second, lasting for 5 seconds. Deal double damage to enemies in a weaken or armor break state, cost 100 health points. After Link used the sublimation effect on the military boxing of death, the skill changed again. You have mastered the killing aura of military killing fist. Combining it with your own skills, it has been upgraded to Apocalypse. Apocalypse LV1, this is a unique skill created by Link after he learned the military killing fist. It will deal 600 damage to all enemies within a 20-meter radius and apply the deterrence effect on them for 5 minutes. Every time you kill an enemy in the deterrence state, you can absorb the enemy's undead aura. Attack, movement speed, and resistance increase by 5%. 200 health points. Deterrence, the enemy's attack power, movement speed, and resistance are reduced by 10%. If the level difference is more than 10 levels, there is an additional effect of terrorizing, causing the enemy to lose control and scatter in all directions. Lasts for 5 seconds. The 5-pointed star in front of the skill was the unique mark of the only exclusive skill. Out of Lin Ke's 9 skills, 2 of them were exclusive skills. A Bullet of Misfortune and Apocalypse. Especially after the upgrade, Apocalypse was Link's first AoE skill. If he were to use this against a group of enemies, just the terrifying bonus from the aura of the dead would be enough to make him a human tank. The news of Kylin Hall holding a rare animal exhibition spread like wildfire. After the Streets and the Alleys sorted out the ins and outs of the matter and Nicole's exclusive interview, the news that Kylin Hall's rare animal exhibition and the rare animal beauty pageant were held on the same day, at the same time, and even in the same block. The news of a face-to-face competition quickly spread. At Shandu Entertainment News. The staff members rushed into the president's office. President, there's a crazy rumor going around that Link organized a rare animal exhibition and wants to fight at the same location as us. What should we do? The president of Shandu Entertainment News had a sexy mustache. He sneered and said, "Don't worry, it's just a small fight in the slums. The rare animal beauty pageant is a routine for the uptown ladies every year. The upper city noble family's attention must be on this too, so there's no need to worry about a clown like Link." Chapter 220. The exhibition begins. An Sheng, the president of Shandu Entertainment News, was not worried at all. As a rising star in the slums, he had been paying attention to Link. But to put it bluntly, being born in the slums made him successful, but also limited him. No matter how well he developed in the future, he was just a bumpkin who came from the dirty and poor slums. The people of the uptown would not even look at him. According to An Sheng, this Link didn't understand what he was facing. The days where he couldn't act tough always passed by so quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the beauty pageant with rare animals. There was a sea of people at the entrance of the theater in the uptown. Many socialites and socialites had come to the theater to see who the beauty pageant winner would be. Cough, cough, cough. A well-dressed old gentleman walked up the stairs of the Grand Theater, but his body was obviously unable to keep up. When he reached the entrance of the theater, he couldn't help but gasp for breath with the help of his cane. "Grandpa, you're in such a bad condition. Why did you come here personally? Isn't there a beauty contest like this every year?" The teenager who was supporting the old man looked puzzled. He really couldn't understand why his grandfather had to come to the Grand Theater every year to watch the beauty contest live. Wasn't it better to watch the live broadcast on TV? The old gentleman took out a small bottle from his suit pocket, unscrewed it, poured a handful of medicine on his hand, and poured it in. After a moment, the old gentleman's heavy breathing eased. He took a deep breath and said, "What do you know? We, the small nobles of the uptown, rely on the big families to survive. If I'm not wrong, Commander Win Layton's wife should be the champion again this year. I have to congratulate her in person and make my presence known in front of her." The old gentleman looked at the luxuriously dressed men and women and said in a low voice, "Do you think these people came here voluntarily? To put it bluntly, Shandu is a vanity fair. These glamorous aristocrats and tycoons are like sharks wandering on the coast. Wherever there is blood, there will be their shadows. You're going to take over the family in the future, so you must understand these principles, but you must keep them in your heart and not say them out loud." "I understand, Grandpa." The young man nodded his head with certainty. Soon, the two of them entered the theater and took their seats. Because he was only an unknown small noble, his seat was also in the back row. If one's eyes were not good, they would not be able to see the people on the stage clearly. "You sit inside, I'll sit on the side. When the champion is finally announced, there will definitely be a lot of people coming forward to congratulate us. We must get up and rush forward as soon as possible, otherwise we will have to queue for a long time. If we can't get to Mrs. Wimbledon in 15 minutes, the other ladies will go to the celebration party and we won't have the chance to congratulate her in person." The old gentleman reminded him with a serious face, and the young man beside him also took note of it. The entire theater was filled with people, and celebrities could be seen at a glance. At this moment, everyone was gathered in twos and threes, and their expressions were all different. The teenager quickly noticed that the famous people were all gathered together. From time to time, there would be one or two people who looked nervous and wanted to interrupt the conversation, but after a few attempts, they would leave in low spirits. It was obvious that it was almost impossible for an unknown person to join the conversation of the upper-class circle. Just as the young man was observing, music soon came from the stage, followed by the voice of a host with a strong aura. As soon as the voice rang out, the young man's eyes lit up as he recognized the other party's identity. He was the head host of the evening news program of Shandu TV station. "Guests, Please take your seats quickly. Today's grand finals are about to begin. The conversing people returned to their seats together, and soon, with a bang, all the lights in the theater went out, leaving only one spotlight on the stage in front of the curtain, waiting for the host to come on. Today, we're at the finals of the Rare Animal Beauty Contest hosted by Shandu Entertainment News. I'm Andrew, today's host. Good afternoon, everyone. With Andrew's confident opening, the beauty contest for rare animals in year 42 of the Wasteland calendar officially began. Although it was the youngster's first time at the live show, she had seen it on TV in previous years. She felt that the process of not having any surprises was extremely boring. Rather than calling it a beauty contest, it was more like a power struggle. Whoever had the stronger momentum this year would be the champion. Moreover, the participating pets were either this madam's cat or another madam's dog. There were only a few of them, and they had to invite 7 professional pet experts to appraise and evaluate them. To be honest, the young man also sympathized with these judges. Every year, he had to face the same pet, but he had to write different compliments. He didn't know how many brain cells he had to kill. Just as the young man was about to fall asleep, he suddenly heard a commotion behind him. I heard that the son of the Mun Kingdom's commander, Benjamin, and the Kylan Hall's master, Link, are holding a rare animal exhibition. They've opened their exhibition opposite here. How long have the newspapers been hyping it up for these past few days before you found out? Speaking of which, Link is really something. He actually dares to go against the uptown. Doesn't he know that the upper city families can shake the entire sand with a simple shake? Tisk, do you think he doesn't know? He's obviously using the Mun Kingdom's banner to attract hatred and take revenge for being disqualified. But he didn't expect that even though he's jumping around now, the Mun family can withdraw at any time and the other families in the uptown can't do anything about it. Without the Mun family's protection, he's nothing. Creak. The door of the theater hall was pulled open, and a few people sneaked in from the outside and sat beside the people behind them. D*MN, the rare animal exhibition opposite is really wonderful. I advise you to go and take a look. Compared to the other side, this place is trash. You went to take a look. Is it really as good as you said? Don't mention it. The exhibition costs 20 yuan for the ticket. I feel that this is the most valuable 20 Wasteland coins I've ever spent. The man's words raised everyone's appetites, but he suddenly stopped and waved his hand. I won't spoil it for you. You'll definitely be shocked when you see it. If you're not satisfied, I'll pay you the ticket money, okay? Is he really as godly as you say? The nobles around him were confused. Forget it anyway, according to the speed of the judging on stage, plus the program during the intermission, it'll take more than an hour. Let's go and see Ying Luo. Let's go, I'll spend another 20 yuan to watch it with you guys again. As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the theater hall behind him was pulled open again, and a group of people ran out on tiptoe. The young man was moved by the conversation just now. He was also curious about what kind of rare animal exhibition Link and Benjamin had organized. His appetite was suddenly whetted. Grandpa, I'm Ying Luo. The old gentleman lowered his head and looked at the fluorescent time on his mechanical watch. You can watch, but you have to come back within an hour. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble if you miss the champion award. The fatigue on the young man's face was swept away, replaced by excitement. Thank you, Grandpa. I'll come back as soon as I'm done reading it. I won't delay my business.